You know, historically, when we talk about advertising and marketing, there's always been this expectation of simple physics.
Right, like a vending machine.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh.
A vending machine. You put $1 in, you buy a billboard or like a magazine spread, people look at it, and a certain percentage of them just walk into your store and buy your product.
It was a very comforting, very linear equation. Visibility goes in, revenue comes out.
And we loved that. I mean, we like things to be straightforward. We like knowing that if we pull a lever, a specific gear turns. But if you step into the world of artificial intelligence right now, that old vending machine is just completely smashed to pieces.
It really is.
We are looking at a marketing landscape that is shifting so fast, it honestly feels like we're trying to build a house on quicksand.
Which is why we need to look at what is actually happening on the ground, away from all the futuristic hype.
And that is exactly what we are wading into today. So, welcome to the deep dive. We are looking at a highly curated stack of sources from a BrightBrief research dispatch specifically covering July 13th through the 19th, 2026, to really decode how AI is completely rewriting the marketing playbook.
We've got some great material today.
We do. We are going to look at real-world case studies on AI creative direction, massive shifts in search advertising, the rise of predictive algorithms, and how organic social strategy is desperately trying to adapt to all of this.
The contrast in the source material today is what makes this so compelling. On one hand, you have these massive tech companies optimizing millions of data points, and then on the other, you have campaigns relying entirely on, unscripted human comedy.
Yeah, it's wild. I can promise you by the end of this deep dive, you will understand why buying an expensive ad on Google's new AI search might not actually buy you the authority you think it does.
Right.
And if you are running a business, whether that's a local plumbing service, a thriving e-commerce brand, or, you're just someone trying to understand how information is being manipulated online right now,
Yeah.
this is your survival guide. The role of the marketer is fundamentally shifting from creator to curator.
So to understand that shift, we really have to start at the very beginning of the assembly line. Because before we even talk about how these algorithms target you, we have to look at how the ads themselves are actually being manufactured.
Right, because the creative process has just been completely upended. I mean, the prevailing idea for the last few years was all about prompt engineering,
Yeah.
typing out elaborate paragraphs of text, basically begging an AI to generate the perfect image.
A process that usually ended in a lot of frustration.
Yeah. Okay, let's unpack this. Because
Yeah.
trying to write a perfect text prompt for an AI is, well, it's like trying to describe a haircut to a barber using only adjectives.
That is a great way to put it.
It rarely works. You say, make it modern and fresh with a little edge, and you walk out with a shaved head and a rat tail.
Right, you get something totally bizarre.
It is just a terrible way to communicate visual taste, but I was reading the story from The Vibe Marketer about a creative named Jackson Dean, and he was running an AI-assisted campaign for a cleaning brand called Exol, and he completely abandoned the adjective approach.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, he just handed the AI 2 reference images, no giant paragraphs.
What's fascinating here is how the system interpreted those references.
Yeah.
Because instead of Dean trying to write a novel about the mood he wanted, the AI just analyzed the actual pixels.
Right.
It instantly identified the structural elements, so the hard lighting, the frozen motion of the water, that hyper-polished studio look. It essentially extracted the mathematical DNA of those images.
He communicated taste without typing a single word. That's crazy.
And once that visual foundation was locked in, Dean fed the system genuine high-resolution photographs of the actual Exol products. The system took those real products and seamlessly placed them within that newly established visual world. So it was generating concepts like, grids of cleaning tablets and dramatic water impact shots that looked like they took a 20-person crew to shoot in a studio.
And the brief noted that a couple of these outputs, specifically a microfiber cloth image and a dissolving tablet image, were so incredibly pristine, they required absolutely no further production.
Wow.
They were just ready for the campaign immediately. But let me push back on the hype train for a second, because it wasn't pure magic.
It never is.
Right. The source specifically called out some massive limitations. When Dean tried to generate more complicated multi-product images, the AI just started hallucinating.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
It messed up the label details, it started altering the specific brand colors, and it basically just completely failed the reality test.
That is the exact friction point every brand is hitting right now.
Yeah.
I mean, the AI doesn't know what a brand guideline is. It just knows what looks statistically pleasing based on its training data.
Plus, we don't have the conversion or cost data on these specific ads yet, so we know they look visually stunning, but we have, like, no idea if a hyper-realistic, dramatic water splash actually makes someone want to buy a cleaning tablet.
And that missing conversion data is crucial. But, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it highlights a profound shift in what a human actually does all day. Marketer's job isn't being eliminated. It's evolving into something much closer to a traditional art director.
Meaning you are supplying the raw, authentic materials, setting the visual boundaries, and then playing defense.
Exactly.
You become the final quality control editor who rejects the outputs that, invent factual inaccuracies or screw up the logo.
Right. For any growing business, you have to look at generative AI as a wildly fast concept development tool, not a hands-off replacement for professional production. You still absolutely need that mandatory human review for proportions and, reality.
Which brings up a pretty glaring question, because generating a perfect image of a dissolving tablet is a great party trick. But how do we know if it will actually move the needle? Like, how do we know it will drive revenue?
And that is the divide between making art and making money. Visuals alone just do not equal an effective campaign.
Wait, but isn't the whole promise of AI advertising that you can just mass produce thousands of generative ad variations? Like, you change the background to blue, you swap out the font, put a different model in the shot, and just throw 1,000 variations at the wall to see what the algorithm favors.
Well, that is certainly the narrative being sold by generative AI platforms. But there is a fantastic interview in Adweek with Jeremy Fain, the CEO of Cognitive, and he completely dismantles that idea.
Really? How so?
He argues that the real substantial AI opportunity for businesses isn't generative content at all. It is predictive algorithms.
Predictive instead of generative. Okay, let's make sure we ground this. What are the actual mechanics of a predictive AI in this context?
So generative AI makes the picture. Predictive AI acts like a highly advanced weather forecast for your money.
I like that.
Yeah, it uses first-party data and deep learning to predict how well an ad will perform before you ever purchase the impression.
Hold on, for anyone who glazes over when they hear buzzwords like first-party data and deep learning, let's translate that. First-party data is just the stuff you actually own, right?
Yeah.
Your customer list, the people who booked appointments, your actual receipts.
Yes, it is the undeniable truth of your business outcomes.
Right.
And deep learning is the mechanism that finds the invisible patterns within those receipts. So a human might look at a spreadsheet and see that sales went up on a Tuesday.
Sure.
But deep learning looks at that exact same data and realizes sales went up on a Tuesday, specifically among mobile users who had previously visited the pricing page twice and who live in a specific weather pattern.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it finds correlations that are just too complex for the human brain to track.
So what does this all mean in practice? If you are running a business, it means you shouldn't be wasting your time generating 50 slightly different AI variations of a Facebook ad.
No, definitely not.
Instead, you need to focus obsessively on accurately recording your own outcome data. You need to track which digital leads actually picked up the phone and which of those phone calls actually became paying customers.
Exactly. An AI optimization system is completely useless and, honestly, in fact, it can be dangerous if you aren't feeding it meaningful outcome data.
Dangerous how?
Well, if you only feed the system data about who clicked your ad, the AI will ruthlessly optimize to get you more clicks.
Just clicks.
Right. It will find the most click-happy, impulsive people on the internet, even if they have zero money and zero intention of ever actually buying your service. Better outcome data gives these predictive systems a real, profitable target to aim for.
Okay, so if AI is increasingly handling the visual concepts like a tireless art director, and predictive AI is forecasting the performance and doing all the heavy math, what is the human being actually doing?
Well, we are left with the two things algorithms really struggle with: deciding where to place our strategic bets and figuring out how to genuinely entertain another human being.
Let's look at the strategic bets first, because the geography of where these massive tech giants are deploying their own ad budgets is really telling.
It is. Marketing Brew reported some very revealing data on this. The biggest players in AI, we're talking OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, are actively shifting their ad impressions away from highly saturated tech hubs like San Francisco and New York.
Interesting. So they are hunting for new territory.
Exactly. Take ChatGPT, for example. Their share of advertising in Seattle grew from 2.4% to 4.6%.
Okay.
And Gemini share went from 1.5% to 3.8%. The overarching strategy is expanding adoption into secondary marketplaces like Boston, Philadelphia, and Detroit. They aren't blanketing the entire country with the same message. They're targeting specific growth pockets.
The lesson there is that you can't just buy a digital billboard for the entire internet. You need to operate like these tech giants. You have to separate your priority markets, localize your specific offers to those zip codes, and then use your first-party data to measure where the actual sales are coming from.
Right, because strategic allocation requires context, and context is something AI lacks.
Speaking of context,
Yep.
here's where it gets really interesting. Because in a world completely obsessed with predictive algorithms and perfectly generated lighting, there was a campaign from SharkNinja covered in Digiday that completely ignored all of it.
Oh, yeah.
It is the perfect foil to this hyper-optimized reality we're talking about.
SharkNinja took a massive swing in the completely opposite direction.
They really did. Instead of making polished predictive AI product pitches, they just handed their products over to social comedy creators, and their brief to these creators, it was just 3 rules. That's it.
And what were they?
1, be funny. 2, be relevant. 3,
Mhm.
make the product fit naturally into the story. They explicitly banned scripted corporate testimonials.
And the results really validate that human touch.
Yeah.
I mean, after just 2 weeks, the campaign generated over 5.5 million views and 100,000 engagements.
That's huge.
Now, we have to be fair to the data. The report did not disclose the actual purchase results. But driving that level of organic engagement without a polished corporate script is just staggering.
The takeaway for you listening is so clear. If you are partnering with a creator, or even just making your own content, you have to allow the human voice to lead.
Absolutely.
Don't try to micromanage a creator into sounding like a robotic press release. The humor, the awkward timing, the weird quirks, that raw humanity is what actually grabs attention when everyone else is using the exact same AI filters.
Which sets up an incredible domino effect. Engaging social content and localized ads drive consumer interest, right?
Yeah.
And that interest inevitably leads someone to pull out their phone and type a search query. They see the SharkNinja comedy sketch, they search for the vacuum. But the way people search and what the search engine actually spits back at them is undergoing a foundational change.
Yes, the new search battlefield. There is a massive study from Search Engine Land and SE Ranking of over 50,000 commercial queries in the United States, and it paints a very aggressive picture. Text ads are now appearing in almost 30% of Google's AI mode searches.
That is a huge portion of AI-generated answers now featuring paid placements injected directly into the response.
Right.
And it raises a critical question about how these platforms are prioritizing monetization over actual information, especially for high-value industries.
The price tag insight here is wild, because the study found that if a keyword is cheap, like under $2 a click, ads only show up in the AI answer about 24% of the time.
Okay.
But if a keyword is highly competitive and expensive, costing $10 or more per click, the likelihood of seeing an ad injected into that AI answer jumps to almost 54%.
The algorithm knows exactly where the profit margins are. Lead generation categories, things like legal services, enterprise software, emergency home repair, these are being heavily monetized in this new AI format.
So what does this all mean? Because this is probably the most crucial realization in the entire research brief. Paying a fortune for these expensive ads does not buy you any actual authority in the AI's answer.
Right. Visibility and credibility have been completely decoupled.
Only 11.53% of the advertiser domains actually appeared as cited sources inside the text of the AI answers.
Oh.
And it gets worse. A measly 2.32% of those advertised URLs managed to rank organically for that exact same search. You can pay to have your link plastered on the page, but the AI is not going to use your business as a source of truth just because you handed over your credit card.
You are effectively renting a billboard, but you are not being included in the guidebook.
Good analogy.
Thanks. If we look at the strategic implication of this, businesses can no longer rely on a brute force financial approach. You need a strict 3-part search strategy. First, yes, paid media gets you immediate visibility for those high-intent keywords.
But as we just established, that's just renting space.
Right, which brings us to part 2. You have to earn the AI's trust. You do that by building helpful service pages, securing independent references, and creating robust FAQs. You have to feed the machine the context it needs to cite you organically.
And part 3.
Part 3 is end-to-end tracking. You have to know if these new AI ad placements actually generate qualified leads, or if users are just clicking them by accident while trying to read the AI summary.
Okay, this brings us to the most practical question of this entire deep dive. If money cannot buy you a citation in an AI answer, how exactly do you earn one? Like, how do you become the source of truth that the AI actually points to when a customer asks a question?
For that, we have to look at a report from Search Engine Journal, which featured data from Uberall and Reddit. And they revealed a statistic that just fundamentally changes the SEO playbook.
Okay, I'm ready.
Reddit accounts for 1 in 5 off-site citations appearing in AI search answers.
Wait, 1 in 5. 20% of the time, the AI is pointing to a Reddit thread. We really need to pause and explain the mechanism behind this. Why on earth are these multi-billion-dollar AI systems obsessed with a community forum?
It comes down to what large language models actually need to survive.
Mm.
LLMs are desperate for authentic, human-verified conversational language.
Okay.
For years, the internet has been flooded with SEO-stuffed corporate blogs that all sound exactly the same. The AI doesn't learn anything new from a generic corporate website. But Reddit is messy, it's opinionated, and it represents actual human beings debating real solutions in natural language.
Right.
It is a goldmine for an AI trying to sound human and provide nuanced answers.
So how do we use this? The source material provided a BrightLead adapted 5-step local gap audit for businesses to figure out where they stand. Let's make this real. Say you are that emergency plumber we talked about earlier. What do you actually do tomorrow morning?
Well, the very first step is verifying your reality. The AI cross-references everything. So you have to check your company name, your address, your phone number, and your hours across Google, Apple, Yelp, and industry directories.
And what happens if they don't match?
If Yelp says you close at 5 p.m., but Google says you are open 24 hours, the AI views you as an unreliable data point, and it will just ignore you entirely.
Oh, wow. Okay, so once your foundation is clean, step 2 is interrogation. You have to test the AI. You open up ChatGPT, Gemini, and Perplexity, and you ask them the exact questions your customers ask.
Right. Don't just search your business name.
Exactly. Type in, which local provider offers emergency plumbing service after midnight?
And step 3 is recording the fallout from that. Document exactly what happens. Does your business even appear? What is the AI saying about your competitors? And more importantly, look at the footnotes. What sources is the AI citing to generate that recommendation?
Which naturally forces step 4, closing the gaps. If the AI didn't know you offered after-hour service, it's because you never gave it the data.
Right.
You need to go build a dedicated service page on your website for after-hours plumbing. You need to update your local FAQs. You need to aggressively respond to your customer reviews so the AI has a rich text environment to scrape that proves you do what you claim to do.
And the final step brings us back to that massive statistic we talked about earlier. Inspecting communities.
Yeah.
You need to look at local Reddit communities and Google discussions to see what people are actually saying about plumbing issues in your specific town.
But I am begging anyone listening to this, hear me on this warning for step 5. Do not jump into a local Reddit thread and start blasting your corporate sales pitch.
Oh, absolutely not.
It is like walking into a quiet neighborhood block party with a megaphone screaming about your discounts. It will backfire spectacularly. Redditors will sniff out a marketer in 2 seconds, downvote you into oblivion, and ban your account.
The source material is completely adamant about this. Participation is only valuable when it is genuinely helpful. You shouldn't even link to your website unless it directly answers a complex question. You are there to be a reliable member of the community. Over time, that authentic participation builds the organic conversational authority that the AI systems are actively hunting for.
Let's bring this all together, because the overarching theme of this deep dive is that AI is no longer a theoretical concept we talk about in the future tense. It is completely changing the mechanics of marketing today.
It's executing the work, and it's doing it at scale.
It can extrapolate an entire visual campaign from just 2 reference photos. It can analyze your first-party data to predict how an ad will perform before you spend a single dime. And it is intercepting your customers, answering their search queries directly on the results page.
But the paradox here is that while AI is automating all of this mechanical execution, it is actually demanding significantly more from us strategically.
Right.
We have to maintain pristine local data architectures. We have to gather rich outcome data because the AI is blind without it. And we have to act as sophisticated curators of visual taste and brand reality.
Which leaves me with the thought I want you to chew on this week. We started this deep dive by talking about how marketing used to be a simple, mechanical vending machine. Well, if AI is rapidly mastering the mechanical generation of text, the mathematical rendering of images, and the high-speed crunching of data, Does the purely human instinct actually become your biggest competitive advantage?
That is a great question.
Think about the creator's unique, awkward sense of comedy in that SharkNinja campaign, or your genuine, unscripted, honest participation in a local Reddit community. As the digital world gets completely flooded with perfectly optimized AI-generated content, does your raw, unpolished humanity actually become the most rare and valuable commodity in the future of business?
When machines can perfectly mimic the professional, the personal becomes the premium. That is the defining challenge for the next era of our industry.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take some time this week, run that 5-step local AI visibility audit for your own business, and see what the machines are actually saying about you. We'll catch you next time.